we'll have this discussion.
Discussion? What discussion?
This is a discussion combustion.
Coming to you from Denver, Colorado. This is Discussion Combustion Podcast with your hosts, Kevin Batstone and Arthur Raw.
Let's jump into it. We got Ryan Van Duzer joining us right now, just up the street, Boulder, Colorado. Welcome aboard, brother.
Hey, I'm psyched to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, super excited. I mean, you've been doing a lot for a long time. And so we want to talk about a couple things on here, a little bit about motivation, maybe some things you had to overcome. But yeah, first of all, appreciate you taking some time out to sit here and chat with us. Are you a fall guy? Like what season is your favorite? I got to know, because some people don't like the winter. Are you into winters since you're a biker?
I love hot, warm summer weather. I like shorts and a t-shirt.
Okay.
I like running out my door with as little clothes as possible, jumping on my bike or whatever I'm doing. So I like summertime. That's my favorite.
Okay, I gotcha.
I'm gonna agree with that one. As you know, I love the heat. I'm jeans and cowboy boots when it's 100 degrees out. I get cranky when it's the wintertime. I can't do as much outdoors and smoke meats and hang out with my friends. Let's go summertime. That's 2 votes. What you got, Art?
Yeah.
Well, you already know that I love all the seasons. Definitely spring and fall are my favorite. When they're in the right in between there, those are the best ones in my personal opinion. It gets tough because I stay hot. Like I just run hot. So when you get me out in the heat, it gets rough. It gets tough.
Yeah, I hear that. I understand it. But I'm more active in the summertime. Like when it's cold, like I don't get up as early. I'm like, what's the point of getting out of bed super early? Because it's just cold. But when you're in summertime, it's hot. You're ready to roll. It's just comfortable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's more, daylight. Of course, you can do more later.
Yeah, that is the best part.
That's what I'm going to miss the most is the 8-9 p.m. sunsets, hanging out with your buddies, bonfires, whatever it is. I don't know. I just feel like the winter here in Colorado because I'm not really into winter sports. I don't do a lot of skiing or winter hiking and stuff. I'd like to get into it. It seems like a lot of fun, but it's just not my thing.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to agree too. When it gets 4 p.m., it's dark at 4 p.m., 4:30. Most people are still working at that time. So you go into work, the sun's rising, and then you get off work, the sun's setting. It could be a little tough. It could be tough. So you haven't always lived in Colorado though, right?
Well, pretty much. I'm born and raised in Boulder. I lived in Sweden for a year as an exchange student right after high school. That was a very impactful year in my life, kind of opened my eyes to the outside world. And then I spent 2.5 years in Honduras in a small village in the Peace Corps. And then I travel 150-ish to 200 days a year. So I'm gone a lot. But Boulder is my home, and I love it.
Nice.
It's a beautiful place just up the road, man. I've been up there in a while, but every time I go up there, the vibes are good. Obviously, everyone's excited about it. I don't know if you're a sports guy, but with CU up there, man, it's a popular place to be right now. Are you a CU fan?
Oh, yeah, big time. I grew up loving the Buffs when we were good back in the late 80s, early 90s, winning national championships, Rashawn Salam, all that good stuff. And, of course, I was at the game this past Saturday against Nebraska. And, yeah, Coach Prime has this city buzzing like it hasn't been in a long time.
That's exciting, man. I'm not a big college football guy, but now it's like all eyes are on Colorado and the Buffs right now. And it's like, man, they're lining them up and knocking them down. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah. Yep, it's exciting. And the tailgates are so fun. I mean, like I said, the city is so excited. Like I know Prime has definitely energized the university and the team, but the whole city of Boulder it's what we're all talking about right now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, especially for a non-sports guy like myself, because all of a sudden you start hearing about it. Your team's doing good when you don't pay any attention to any of it. And then all of a sudden you start hearing all the news come out. So yeah, let's go Buffs. I'm also a native. So congratulations to us because everyone moves to this state.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
He's one of them. 80% of my friends are implants. So yeah, it's a beautiful state, but definitely can see how living abroad made an impact in your life. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about moving to Sweden. Did you have to learn the language? How proficient did you get? And maybe like what were a couple of the main things that you learned from that journey?
So I grew up in Boulder, and people like to make fun of the Boulder bubble and that we live in this, perfect little hippie society. And there's some truth to that. And so this was my first time ever like leaving Boulder. Well, not the first time.
Really?
I mean, But I went to Sweden when I was 18 and opened my eyes to the world. I was an exchange student, so I had to learn the language. I went to school, I went to classes, I lived with the host family. So yeah, I did need to learn the language. Luckily, Sweden and Scandinavian in general, they're very good at English. So it's not like I got off the plane and couldn't communicate. Like they can all speak English pretty well. But I made it a goal to learn the language and really put in some effort. So I remember when I was there the first few months, my Swedish mom would sit with me at the dinner table and we would read children's books together. And that's kind of how I got the hang of Swedish. And here's a fun fact. Pippi Longstocking is a Swedish creation. So we read Pippi Longstocking books.
Okay. I didn't know that. I did not know
I
that.
didn't know that either, actually. I bet Eric knew that. Yeah, I never heard of that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good way to learn the culture and the language a little bit, right? Just kind of get over there, read some books, be around folks. Outside of just doing vacation, I've never lived anywhere else abroad to have that experience and that opportunity. So that's cool. You had as you call it, the Swedish mom.
Yeah. Yeah. So I call, my Swedish mom, dad, sister, brothers. I mean, I was injected into the culture because I lived with this family and they taught me about just life there. And it was, pretty different than my life in Boulder. And I went to high school. I fell in love. My first love was a Swedish girl. And no, she wasn't blonde. Everybody always asked if she was blonde, but she actually had strawberry red hair. Her name is Therese. And yeah, I love Sweden with all my heart. I was actually back there this summer doing a bike adventure. I rode my bike from the top of Sweden above the Arctic Circle all the way down to the bottom of Sweden, about 1,300 miles to the village where I lived 25 years ago. So I'm still very connected with my host family and my friends. And
that's awesome.
Just love it.
Yeah, I actually put a little time aside to watch some of that earlier. Your bike packing adventure through Sweden. I think one of the coolest parts was when you saw those American classic cars. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Swedes, they love American culture and they have for a long time. And there's a lot of old muscle cars over there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. I'm a huge car guy. So when I saw that, I'm like, all right, Sweden's a pretty cool place. I might have to go check it out.
I mean, I'm part Swedish,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
The fam, man. So what a great opportunity to be able to go out there and learn the language and culture. Now back then, were you an avid biker too? Was that always something you were doing or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was always into cycling. When I turned 16, I vowed to never have a car. And all my friends got driver's license at age 16. And I was like, I'm going to keep on riding my bike. And that's what I did. Okay. So when I got to Sweden 2 years later, I was still very much used to riding my bike everywhere. And in Sweden, of course, in Europe, people ride their bikes way more than they do here. And I remember like my Swedish mom waking up in the mornings and getting on her bike and riding to the local bakery and coming back with fresh bread. And it was just such a different view of life compared to the United States, where we jump in our cars for absolutely everything. So yeah, I was way into bikes then, and it only grew from there.
How many people give you, gripe about it to this day? Like, what do you mean you don't own a car, Ryan? That's crazy.
People, yeah. I mean, I've been saying it all my life. People are kind of used to it now, but I still meet people who they just cannot fathom how you can function in this society without a car. And, I've been able to do it. I have a, thriving life. I ride public transportation when I need to go long distances. Otherwise, I'm riding my bike everywhere, to the grocery store, to friends' houses, on dates, whatever it is.
Yeah. So how's the winter looking? It's obvious. It's all coming together why you picked the summer more.
Yeah.
How do the winters look? Just a lot more public transportation, I'm guessing.
Colorado's fairly mild in the winter. Like it can get cold. We might get some snowstorms, but it's so sunny that the snow melts pretty quickly. So I'm still on my bike quite a bit, but on those days where it's full on, 2 feet of snow on the ground, then yeah, I'll jump on the bus. Or a lot of times I don't need to go anywhere. When I'm home editing my videos. I don't go to an office for work.
Even better. Yeah. The work at home life is nice. And yeah, I mean, kind of segueing there into, content production and creation, because you do a ton of it, of course. You have a successful YouTube channel. You've been doing it a long time. That's what kind of goes into that? Like with your editing, to get these videos out, what do you say your turnaround is from, let's say, your trip to Sweden to when it drops, and what goes into some of that editing? I mean, because on this end, we have to do a little bit of editing, of course, to get the podcast out, but I don't think it's quite as extensive as some of these videos that I've seen your productions.
Yeah, editing really is the longest part of the process of creating video content. I went to Sweden for 3 weeks. I rode my bike for, two of those weeks. And when I come home, I have just a mountain of footage that I need to start editing. And I put out one video every week on my channel. And so every week I'm putting together these videos, and I have 3 different cameras on every adventure. I have a GoPro, I have a Sony for interviews, and then I have a drone. So I have lots of different footage, and I'm putting it together, and I'm finding the right music and all the other things. So yeah, it takes a long time to put together a story and a video. And some people don't realize that. My audience is always like make process? make more videos.
Yeah. And you're like, I would love to, but do you love that process? Because some people, love to create and like edit and put in the music and like, oh, that hits just right. That camera cut was perfect. Is that your forte, or you got into it for the physical activity and that's something that you do because you have to do it?
Yeah. I do like the creative process of crafting the story. To me, it's fun. It can be overwhelming when I come home from a trip and I'm like, oh God, I have hundreds of hours of footage and I have to sift through this whole thing. So there are aspects of it that are a kind of a pain. But when I get down to it and I'm doing the final cut of the edit and I'm tightening things up and finding the right music, then it's really fun. Then, I can get way into it.
Yeah, that's when it gets exciting to launch, right? And of course, when you have deadlines, like you said, you drop one a week. We drop, one episode a week too, so we can kind of relate to that. But again, the editing we do here is nothing compared to that. When you have hundreds and hundreds of hours, different camera angles, finding the music, bringing all that together. And I think that's a good point to kind of reiterate here to the viewers and listeners that, just expect content to appear. It's like, man, there's a lot that goes into this stuff. There really is a lot of time. Like you said, you just got back from a long trip. You got to sift through all these hours of stuff. It doesn't just magically appear. I mean, unless you have a production team behind you that I don't know about. I mean, you're doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and it's funny because people don't really get it, and they just expect that YouTubers can just whip out this content like it's nothing. But to make good quality content and to craft a good story, it takes a lot of work. It's like writing. Like you write and you delete and you write some more and you delete it and you tighten things up, and it's a process.
Well, and you hit on something that we talk about a lot too, and that's consistent quality content. Right. That's the stuff that we want to focus on. We're not just trying to throw garbage out there, but the consistency piece is crucial, right? Dropping on the channel once a week, having the content that you obviously have a tremendous following that your viewers get excited to, they get to live vicariously through your life and what you're doing out through the world. And that's fantastic. We've been pretty fortunate to talk to, a lot of adventurers. And I don't know if you're familiar with a lady here in Colorado. Her name is Spirit Forest. She has a channel on YouTube. Her name is Tammy, and she does winter expeditions throughout the state. She has a beautiful property here in Colorado. She teaches women's survival. And we had her on the show a few months ago, year ago, somewhere in there. And just the stories that we hear from like the people that are on their deathbed, or maybe someone that's a paraplegic or whatever that can't do these things, content creators like you guys bring that, to make that possible for those people to live vicariously through it. And I think it's great.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite aspects of what I get to do. And this is the whole goal of my channel, is to inspire viewers to go out and challenge themselves. I started all of this on public access TV back in 2006. I had a TV show in Boulder, kind of like Wayne's World, and it was called Out There. And the whole goal was to inspire people to get off their couches and get out there. And that's still my main goal, is to create content that people can watch and to aspire to and be like, wow, Ryan's having so much fun out there. I want to do something similar. So I spend many hours a week responding to emails and comments from viewers who are like, I want to do this, but I'm overwhelmed. Can you help me on my journey? And so that's a big part of what I do, is truly helping people, realize their own adventure dreams.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is one of the major areas that you can make an impact with all this. Sure, putting out the content is extremely important, and that gets the ball rolling. But then when you can have that one-on-one and individual interaction with people who follow what you do and are motivated by what you do, that's when you really start making that impact, right? Because we're all equal. Everyone's equal on this planet, and you might have a lot of replies that come in, right? So even though it only takes like 90 seconds to reply to one, or maybe 5 minutes to reply to one, that could add up really quick if you got 50, 100 people on that inbox. but the overall impact that you're making on people's lives and the impact in this world. Even one of our best friends, and who's also like a scouting guy for the podcast, who messaged you on LinkedIn, like he's been inspired by what you do. So I think that's great, and it's really satisfying to be able to do something that is enjoyable for you, first of all, because then you're fulfilling your needs on this planet, but then you're also helping other people see that they can also fulfill those needs. So I just love it, man. We're all about the positive energy here. We're all about that sort of stuff and kind of speaking on all that. So love to highlight that work.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. For so long, when I started my channel about 7 years ago, I didn't know if it was ever going to gain traction. I had no idea where it was going to go. My goal was to build it up to the point where I could make a living doing YouTube. And for the first 3-4 years, I didn't really make much money at all. But I would get emails from people saying, "Hey, Ryan, I saw your videos and it inspired me to pull my bike out of the garage for the first time in 20 years. And I've lost 20 pounds and I'm loving life. And thank you so much." And I get those emails, and that's what makes it all worth it. I call those emails the emotional paycheck. I wasn't making much money, but I was getting those emails, and that's what made it all worth it. Now my channel is bigger and I am making a living. So I'm really psyched about that. But really the main goal is to get people pumped up about getting outside.
It's fantastic. It's great. It's just a great mission statement all around. And we can kind of relate to some of that with YouTube. We're still in that growth process. We've been fortunate to do this for a long time. It can be a difficult industry, but like you say, you do it because you love it. And like to your point, the emotional paycheck, I like that term.
Me too. I like that.
Well, because I can relate to that. We've received emails or Instagram messages where people are like, "I needed to hear that podcast," whatever. And that is one of the reasons we keep coming back every week. I mean, that right there is like, if you're having a tough week, it's like, man, I got to go do this podcast. But then you receive a message like that, it makes it all worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You guys are doing good work. I love it.
When the emotional paycheck is almost more like, we need to make money. Sure. We were born into society. Like, we need to do this, but the emotional paycheck, if you really think about life and the moments that mean the most in life, it wasn't when you deposited a check. The moments that meant the most is when you were with people that you loved, or you knew that you were doing the right thing and helping somebody. Like, so those emotional paychecks, I almost think are more valuable to, that end of life reflection, like looking at life. Was I a good person? Was I happy? Like, I feel like those are more valuable to that bigger picture than actually making money. Of course we need to make money, but any aspiring YouTubers out there, you just heard it from Ryan. This guy was working hard for 3-4 years on it before he caught traction. We're catching traction. We're 4.5 years in.
Right.
You got to stick in and do this. And it's not easy.
No.
Yeah, it's not easy, but like anything in life that's hard, it's worth it. And if you truly believe in it and you love it and it lights your fire and you feel like you're bringing value to the world, I think that's when you need to stick with it. Because I go to a lot of schools and do presentations to the kids, and of course they all want to be YouTubers. And I hear stories of people trying out YouTube for a month or two and they get discouraged because they put all this time into their videos and nobody watches them, so they quit. But I mean, if you have the ability to do it, stick with it, because it will eventually catch some traction, and they'll tell their friends, and videos will get a few more views, or whatever you're doing. Maybe you're just an artist or a podcaster or whatever. But when you share your heart and your soul with the world, people appreciate that. And so I think it's one of those things in life where it's not easy. They look at us as like, ooh, it must be so cool to have a podcast or a YouTube channel. Wow, what a life. But there's a lot that goes on behind it, as you know, and it's all a ton of hard work, but we love it. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And just the authenticity piece, I think, is what people like too. It's like, we're not playing characters here. We're doing what we love. You're out, bike riding around the world. We're here talking to people, just living, and people get to experience that. It's like a lost art a little bit, sitting around and talking about experiences and sharing ideas. And, I think the other thing I would add too, like to, folks that are trying to start a channel or be a content creators, do it because you love it. You don't do it because you have to do it, do it because you get to do it. That mindset definitely changes a little bit too when you can kind of look at it that way. Like, there's times where our videos don't perform well and we're like, it was a fantastic experience in the moment. Yeah. And then we get ones that do perform well. We're like, terrific. It's all about the experience, I feel like.
Well, and one more thing to add, because we were touching on this earlier. but we call it the CQC, and it's consistent quality content. And I know we've already been breaking some of that down, but consistency is every single week. Quality is you buy the right mics, you get the right boards, you invest in the quality, and then the content, being authentic. If you can do those things and just ignore the noise and not let the numbers get too much in your head, like you'll enjoy it and have a good time. So to kind of switch things here, I know you probably haven't listened to too many of our episodes, Ryan, and I know you can't wait to listen to more, but on here, we do talk a little bit about what we've overcome in life, and we like to motivate people. The listeners of this show know, but just informing you, like one thing that I like to be open about is addictions. And I had a bad opiate addiction for a long time, and it took like 5 years to get off of it once I realized that it was a major problem, right? So we like to talk about those things, be open about it. To my knowledge, you don't drink. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And so I was just kind of curious, like, did you used to? What led you down that path?
Yeah. Being authentic is really something that's so wonderful about YouTube. It's like, I'm not a TV show host. I'm not reading a script that was written for me. I'm not a character. I'm me. And I share my ups and downs with my channel. I share my life. I share about heartbreak and when times are tough, and people can relate to those moments because life isn't always awesome, and I made a video. It's got 8 years now where I talked about why I quit drinking alcohol. And I still have people coming to me today saying, wow, that video was really powerful and you helped me on my own journey. But yeah, I was a total party boy, binge drinker. I always took it too far, and just went crazy. And I had a great time and it was fun. And I wasn't a mean drunk. I wasn't starting fights. And obviously I wasn't driving a car, but I was drinking way too much. I was waking up and not knowing what I did the night before. And it just got to the point where I was like, you know what? This is not healthy for me. This is not good. I'm not proud of who I am when I'm drunk. And so I decided 8 years ago to quit drinking alcohol. And it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. Only good things have come from it. And I am so happy that I made that decision. And here I am today, 8 years sober, and life is awesome.
Congratulations, man. Yeah, that's an incredible story for sure. And both of you guys overcoming, some major addictions. A lot of people are dealing with it, and it's good to put that out there, right? I'm glad that you do that because again, the authenticity piece, who knows, someone just tuned in and they're like, man, now I'm inspired to put down the bottle or whatever it is. You just never know who that's going to reach, when you're authentic about it, including you are. We've had people reach in and like, man, I'm, X amount of days off of this drug because of this guy. Stuff like that needs to happen. I'd like to see it. We need to have more of it. Obviously we're all connected via, we're using screens and stuff to watch these things and YouTube and stuff. But, to get in touch with yourself and to be inspired by something like that, it's just a great feeling.
Yeah. And it's a battle too for anybody out there that's like, trying to make those big changes. You even said the quote earlier, Ryan, if it's worth it, it's not going to come easy. Like it should be hard if you're going to actually pursue it. Like, you should question if you're capable of even accomplishing this or not. Like whatever your goals are, you should shoot for the moon and like really see what you can do. And that's difficult, especially to have that daily dedication, talking about aspiring YouTubers and then they're in it for a month. A month ain't nothing. It's almost 2024 already. Like what is a month? Like you gotta really buckle in and dedicate to this stuff, and to have that daily dedication and for the right reasons, that's a challenge. Like, cause you're doing it until you die. Like this isn't like, I'm just doing it for a little bit sort of thing. Like if you're fundamentally changing, and I feel like that is one of the bigger obstacles for people to overcome when they're trying to make those big shifts in life, is because they have to commit to a whole new lifestyle. And I'm going to go ahead and say that it's okay to fail on the path to success. Like I, quote unquote, relapsed so many times and got opiates so many times when I was trying to quit, and felt like a piece of shit and lied to people I loved and like drained my bank account when I knew I shouldn't and couldn't afford it, but I was still trying to get better. So it's like, you can't beat yourself up too much over failing as long as you try to keep moving. So, this is the real talk right here, right?
Yeah,
good.
It's a journey. I mean, the entire, span of our lifetime is a journey, and we have ups and downs, and we're constantly problem solving and trying to be better humans, or at least I hope we're all trying to be better humans every day when we wake up and we're like, okay, how can I be of service to my community, or at least maybe just to my wife or partners or family? And we do our best every day, and that's all that we can do. And there are some days where, like, what, I didn't really show up the way I should have. And hopefully we learn from those moments. And the next day we wake up and we're a little bit better.
Yeah, being in the suck is going to happen for sure. It's not always rainbows and butterflies. We've all been through it, and I think that's an unrealistic expectation to put out for people. Is like, it's not always going to be great every single day. Going back to your point, oh, these guys are living the life, bike ride through Sweden or doing podcasting with whoever. Like, there is tough times out there. And I think Art does a little bit better job than I do about putting some of that out there on social media. I'm not a big social media guy. I'm a little bit more, private with my life, but other than what I do here. But, putting that stuff out there does make a big difference for sure. I mean, and I think that's some of the positives that can come out of social media. We talk about so much how the negative impact it has. What can we do to turn that around and actually have a positive impact with it? And that's kind of what I try to focus on.
And that's a big part of my journeys, my adventures that I go on. I document all aspects of them, where sometimes it's really hard and I'm struggling big time, either mentally or physically, or I'm super lonely because I've been out in the woods for 25 days. And I think everybody can relate to those moments in life. Not everybody can relate to jumping on a bike and riding thousands of miles, but people can relate to loneliness. People can relate to not feeling good enough, or like, I'm not strong enough. People can see that even though they're watching an adventure they would never do themselves. They can relate to the tough times in life, alcoholism or whatever it is. We all probably have family members that have dealt with these types of things. And so the more we talk about it, the more it's normalized. And also a big point is we're men, and men in society are kind of conditioned to always be strong and tough and not show the negative, sad emotions. And I have cried on my channel countless times, and my audience is used to seeing it. And it's like, it's a chance for us to say, you know what, we can be sensitive as men. We can have emotions, and it's totally okay. We are human. And that is a very natural, healthy outlet when things are tough.
So I'd love it if you could get behind this with us, Ryan, and support the modern man, the modern man movement.
All right.
Hashtag modern man, because the modern man is allowed to cry. We're allowed to show emotions, just like everybody else, right? With how progressive society is nowadays, I agree. Like, there's a lot of stereotypes, or like ways that people think the way things should go, and men can cry. We can show our emotions and stuff, and I think that's absolutely okay. And it really does make an impact too, especially with hundreds of years of stoic men and this and that. And then if you can come out here and show some authenticity and some emotion and be real. I mean, here's the thing. Like, if you're not being real and authentic, I mean, I've been there. I've been a liar and making up shit for years, and it did not feel good. It's like, you got to choose a path, and sometimes we just got to own the hard days too. Like, there's good days and bad days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think when you're living in shame, you're not proud of who you are. So you start retreating from your family or your friends or your community. And the more we can process these things out in the open with our own friends and feel comfortable with other men sharing these ideas that, I'm sad and I need to just sit here and cry with you, or whatever it is. I think the more we show that on podcasts and YouTube videos or whatever, I think it shows younger viewers that, this is okay and this is healthy, because they look up to us. And they're like, okay, Ryan Van Duzer is a total awesome athlete and rides his bike everywhere, but he also has bad days, and he shows it and he talks about it. So it's okay.
Hashtag modern man. So do you have something here?
I do.
Okay, go for it.
Staying consistent, because I'm going to tell a story now. We're going to probably go down a different avenue here, but
let's do it.
We'll take it back about, 11, 12 years ago. I had just gotten my first DVR, and I was a huge fan of the Discovery Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom had told me, she's like, yeah, there's this show I really think you would like. It's called Out of the Wild. And it was the first edition with Alaska. I watched it. I was like, this is cool. And then I come to find out there's a show called Out of the Wild Venezuela. And it was the first show I ever hit record series. So it wasn't just record episode. Like I had the whole series recorded on the DVR, and I let them build up and I watched it through. That was the first time I ever saw you.
Yeah, man.
And it was
that's
fantastic.
So funny.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that show a lot, man.
That's cool. Wow. So yeah, Out of the Wild, if the viewers don't know, it was a survival show where they threw 9 of us into the jungles of Venezuela with very few resources and no camping equipment. We ate termites and grub worms, and I lost over 30 pounds in a matter of a month. And it was without a doubt the hardest thing I have ever done in my life, both mentally and physically. In the moment, it totally sucked. It was torture. But now looking back on it, man, it's been over 10 years. It was one of the most valuable experiences of my life because I really pushed myself to the absolute limits. And I think it was like one of the more heartwarming reality shows because we weren't pitted against one another. We weren't winning $1 million. So there weren't alliances. There wasn't this backstabbing behavior like you see on Survivor. We had to work together as a team to get ourselves out of the jungle. And it was hard. I mean, extremely difficult. And yeah, man, that's that I look back on that journey almost every single day and the lessons I learned, and very grateful for that experience. And talk about crying on camera. I cried on international TV many times.
Yeah, that's what kind of made me think of it, of course, as well. It was a fantastic show. I mean, what you guys went through was just incredible to watch. And a point I'm going to bring up just to talk about how small of a world it is. Sam, who he ended up going home like around episode 5, somewhere in there. He went to high school with one of our best friends, Craig Christopherson, down in Destrehan, Louisiana.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy. Just, the small world piece of it. Cause we were watching that together, and he's like, man, I went to high school with this guy.
No way. Sam was one of my favorite guys. We're still friends. I'm actually really close with everybody on the show because what we went through really bonded us.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I was actually at Burning Man a couple weeks ago, and Melissa from the show was out there, and it was good to see her again.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Melissa was great. Hey, did you get stuck in the mud out there at Burning Man? I know you were
I was about to ask that.
The media made it out to be a chaotic hellhole. It really wasn't that bad. They're ready for that moment because we're very self-sustaining. We're all about radical self-reliance anyway, even when there's not rainstorms. And so we had enough food and supplies and water to keep us happy. And, Chris Rock escaped, I heard, by hitchhiking out of there, but everybody else was pretty content.
Yeah, that's good. It sounded like the vibe was good and everyone kind of came together, like you said, just combined resources and made the best of it. Everyone's there to have a good time, right?
Yeah. And, I have the advantage of, being an adventurer. And so I'm used to shit going south constantly. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like, yeah, it's a little bit muddy, but we have plenty of food and water. I mean, this is 1,000 times more comfortable than sitting in the jungle eating termites.
Yeah, for sure. So Kev, you shared a little bit about this. There was a point in time where you were about to quit, and then lightning struck or thunder happened, and then you changed your mind and you decided to stay. What happened in your head right there? What was going on?
So I'll paint the picture. It was I think it was day 17 or 18. I was absolutely miserable. I hadn't eaten much for 18 days. My body was breaking down. It was so uncomfortable constantly. And when I wasn't starving and like very uncomfortable from hunger pains, trying to sleep at night with bugs buzzing all over your head and stinging you, it sucked. And so there's this day where we were sitting around camp, half of us, the other 2 buddies went out looking for food, and it started raining like crazy. And I'm just sitting under a tree, and I've kind of justified to myself that I'm going to push this button, and that's how the helicopter comes and gets you out of there. And you've kind of, that's your way out. You're not going to, complete the show with everybody else. And I justified it to myself that I had gone far enough that I felt proud of how far I'd gotten, but I was hating it so much that I wanted out. And then all of a sudden, like a flood happens pretty close to us. A river starts raging, and we start hearing screams from the other side of the river. And it's our 2 buddies over there. And it kind of snapped me out of my pity party. We're like, okay, we need to assemble and help these guys out. And so we all got up and we quickly like chopped down a tree, and it landed across the river, and we helped them across this, raging river. And we assembled that night, and it kind of just changed my idea on why I was there. It wasn't so much about me, it was about us, and we all needed each other in a different way. And that's what kept me in the game. So that's the only time I think outside forces has played a role in my destiny, because if it was up to me, I was ready to push that button and be out of there.
And then the crazy rainstorm and flash flooding. You just couldn't resist a good time, huh?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And what it did was just like, because when you sit and you start stewing and you get in your head, and this is any time in life, you can really go into a dark place. It's so easy to just start having these thoughts that compound on each other. And you're like, I'm going to leave. I'm out of here. I suck. I'm not even helping this team. You know, I need to push this button and go home so that the rest of the team can go off because they're stronger than me. And you start thinking all these things that aren't necessarily true, you know, and I'm sure we can all relate to this with anything in life. And I was going down a dark hole, decided that I was out, and then the flash floods snapped me out of it.
Wow. Well, like you're saying, you know, in the moment it sucked, but looking back, a reflection of strength, you know, companionship, right?
Yeah.
Loyalty to the group, you know, making sure people survive. That's a crazy experience.
Yeah, and I think the production crew did a good job from a viewer's perspective, but I still don't think it speaks volume to what you had to deal with. Being out there 30 days, you know, compacted down into a couple of episodes probably doesn't highlight a lot of what was going on when the cameras weren't rolling.
Yeah, you know, we had cameras on us at almost all times. And that was an interesting experience, because not only are you having this adventure, but you also have cameras on you at all times asking you questions and, hey, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And it's kind of a stress where you're always being documented. And so that was definitely a unique part of the puzzle of being out there, was, you know, dealing with the production crew. And I remember one day we saw one of the guys drop a pack of Oreos on the ground, and he hadn't noticed it, but we all saw it. And we're kind of like looking at each other like, when they walk away, we are getting this pack of Oreos. And we did, and we got it, and it was the best thing ever. We cheated, but I don't care.
That's hilarious.
That's good. Yeah. Some good behind the scenes information there. That was gonna be one of the questions I was going to ask, is like, you know, because so many people we've heard like Bear Grylls went through, you know, he was sleeping in hotels and stuff, but he's more of a presenter. It's, you know, kind of a different scenario there, I guess. So I've defended Bear a little bit, but, you know, now we're hearing it from the horse's mouth that you guys are out there actually not being fed food behind the scenes. You were in the elements dealing with it, and you could see it. I mean, like you said, you lost all this weight, you know, and then to make it to the end, man, that's like the mental toughness that takes. Yeah. I think that's what I gathered the most watching that show. And it was emotional. I remember seeing at the end when you guys all arrive at wherever that was in Venezuela, you know, your mom was there and you got emotional about that. Like, you could just, as a viewer, it was tear jerking.
Yeah, it really was, even for all of us. Cause I mean, we just went through the suck for 30 days to get out of there. And we all sacrificed and were in pain physically and mentally. And we never slept well. When we got out, we had thousands of bug bites all over our bodies. And it was rough, man. And what it did is it really gives you like compassion for how a lot of people live on this planet. I mean, we live in a very comfortable first world area, but a lot of people don't, you know, and they struggle on a daily basis to find food and to find shelter. And so going through that really helps open your eyes to what a lot of this planet goes through on a daily basis.
Yep, definitely an eye-opening reminder for sure. So I have to ask, what was the first, you know, meal of your choice after all that? What did you gorge on? Of course, you probably couldn't eat too much, right? Because after not eating for 30 days, you don't want to overeat.
So they really warned us that our stomachs had shrunken so much that we wouldn't have been able to handle much food. So when we first got out, they were giving us really easy digestible food. So like bananas and watermelon and stuff. So we started with that, and it tasted so incredible. I mean, I can't tell you how good that first banana was, man. And then soon after that, we started eating bigger meals. And when I was in the jungle, I would just at nighttime just dream about food. That's all I dreamt about. And I was like dreaming about foods that I never normally ate, like chocolate chip pancakes with mountains of syrup and just candy. And I remember thinking a lot about what are they? Nutter butters. Like for some reason, I really wanted those.
Now, when you eat a Nutter Butter though, are you the type that like breaks it up and then you like peel off each layer? Like, do you layer the Nutter?
I do play with it. I do play with them. Okay. It's fun. You know, as a kid, we got those little Debbie snacks and they were awesome. And you had to like make them last as long as possible. So that's a good way to do it.
That's epic.
Wow.
Yeah. So and you know, the funny thing is we got back from that adventure the day before Thanksgiving. So we all went to our homes and it was Thanksgiving, which is a great time to like really give thanks to the world and for being so grateful for being alive. And I remember just enjoying that Thanksgiving dinner more than I ever had in my life.
Yeah. So, I mean, this just speaks to the whole theme kind of right now is when you go through really, really difficult times, you appreciate everything else so much more afterwards. Right. Yep. And that's why it's good to have those challenges and really, push yourself, like see what you can handle, and you'll actually, as frail as the human body is, it's extremely resilient too. It's like this juxtaposition of something, you know, it's so frail but also so strong. And it's interesting, like stop the cushy, fun, easygoing life on the couch. Knock that off. Like, let's start challenging ourselves, and maybe you do jog halfway up a hill if you don't know if you can or not, you know, like this is where you're going to start actually enjoying the rest of your life more, because it sucks when you're working out. It's difficult. Like sometimes you don't want to, but then you push through it and you get through it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, that felt great.
You know, I do a lot of ultra running and ultra cycling. And after that Venezuela experience, I feel like I can do anything. Like nothing is unattainable anymore. You know, I've done the Leadville 100 run a couple times, which is a long ass way to run. But, you know, you line up in the morning and you're like, okay, this is going to take 24 hours. That's going to be really hard. But guess what? There's going to be like aid stations the whole way with people feeding me all sorts of goodies and food. And it's like, I never had that in Venezuela. So this is extremely cushy. And at the end of all this, I'm going to go into a comfy bed. You know, we never had that security in Venezuela.
Well, like you said, you think about it almost daily as far as what that trip did to you. So that just speaks volume. You're like, man, if I got through that, and that's probably also, you know, feel like I'm so glad I didn't hit that button and stuck it out for the team and got to the end.
Totally.
You know, I mean, a lot of folks didn't make, was it for you that made it to the end?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, and I'm really glad that I made it to the end. I think I would have regretted that decision pretty quickly if I had gotten on that helicopter and gone home. And I'm grateful for the flash flood and for a little bit of internal strength to get me through those moments, because not finishing would have, I think that would have played with my psyche quite a bit.
Absolutely. Well, it's just a reminder, when it gets tough, keep on going, because you're almost there. As Dirk Bentley says, you know, when you get to the top of the mountain, there's always one a little bit higher. Reach down and lace them up tighter.
Yeah.
Let's keep pushing.
Yep. And the human body can do amazing things. You know, anybody, I think we can be pushed a lot further than we truly believe we can be. And that goes for everybody. We all have it. It's part of the human spirit, you know? So if you're out there listening and thinking that's, you know, you can't do something, I guarantee you can do it. You just got to train and get ready and just be totally committed to it. Kind of like what we were talking about with being a YouTuber or a podcaster. Like, you can do it and you can be successful, but you just got to dig deep sometimes and weather the storms and just keep on being true to yourself.
I couldn't agree more. So what are a couple of the things that is on your chopping block right now that you're trying to improve on, become a better master of in life?
You know, patience is a big thing. I've accomplished a lot in my life, and sometimes I don't have the patience. You know, I want something now, you know. So I'm always working on that. I think we can all relate to that. Gratitude, really being great. These are like really just daily practices that I go through every day, where I think, okay, what am I grateful for today? And I can think about some really simple things, like maybe, you know, my lunch was really good and the sunrise was really pretty. And it's a nice practice to get into, just of gratitude. And so those are things that I still work on. And as far as like physical things, like I'm always running and biking, and I try to be stronger and faster at every race that I do. So it just takes the work. You have to put in the work if you want to get better at anything, whether it's YouTubing, podcasting, running, a relationship with your wife or girlfriend. You really have to be committed to doing the work. And sometimes that means therapy, not physical therapy, but like therapy, like learning how to talk about things and communicate with other humans. And sometimes it is physical. And so I'm always every day thinking, all right, what can I do to make myself a better person so that I show up on this planet as a better brother and son and partner and whatever it is.
It's a great mindset for sure. I always like to say repetition is the mother of skill, no matter what it is, right? If you're trying to get better at something, you're trying to learn something new, you're trying to make different lifestyle changes, repetition. Do it every day, put some time, think about it, whatever that is. Cause we live amongst a lot of folks that, tend to live in a world where, people do more to avoid pain than they will to gain pleasure. Right. And just kind of stay in the complacent mindset. I see it a lot. I've been there. I'm guilty of it for sure. I think we've all experienced that at times for sure. So that's why it's good to have those constant reminders and folks around you, like your friends, your family, whoever, an influencer, to just give you that little kick in the ass, that constant reminder of, hey, man, did you do everything, get everything out of today you did? Great. It wasn't such a good day. Well, we got tomorrow. I try to maintain that mindset, as best I can, but I'm not perfect. I still slip here and there.
Oh my God. I mean, I fell down probably twice this week on my goals and ambitions. I swear to God, it's a constant thing, man. And your mentality has to constantly adapt too. Like once you hit that level that you've been searching for. So I've been on a weight loss journey, and I'm grateful for all that. But I got to like 205 was like a weight that I got down to, and I just kind of plateaued at that weight, and I was just there, and I knew I could lose more, but I hadn't made some other changes. And then eventually I just had a night where I had a revelation, and I was like, you know what? I've been splashing around in the shallows with this shit for a while, and it's time to dive in the deep end. And so I stopped drinking for 40 days, went major fasting, was working out twice a day. And then I dropped 15, 20 pounds in a couple months. But in order for me to do that, I had to change the mentality that got me to 205. And I had to do something else new. And then once I hit that new weight goal of losing 20, then I kind of went back to drinking occasionally and went too hard a couple times and kind of regretted that and multiple times. And so here I am now. Like I'm still really trying to find the balance of where I'm happiest, where I'm mentally happiest. And so it's important to have that mindset, like you're saying, Ryan, and pay attention to what you can be grateful for on the day, and where you can improve on the day, and things like that is just really important to be aware of, because if you're not an observer of your thoughts, if you're not paying attention to your thought processes, then the mind will just run rampant. Like you have to like steer your thought process sometimes. And like you were saying, when you're out in the jungle and all the negativity, it just started to compound, and then all of a sudden you're just a negative Nancy or whatever. Yeah, it's constant. I mean, I could go on like a 10-minute rant on that subject alone,
Yeah, it's a continual practice. That's really what it is. And nobody's perfect, and we're all on a journey, and we're all trying to be better, I hope. And some days we slip up, but we learn from it and move on.
Well, we've definitely touched on a lot of positive stuff for sure. And we always ask every guest that comes on to this show, if you could offer one piece of advice that would better humanity tomorrow, what would that piece of advice be?
Let's see. It goes down to like some Mr. Rogers type advice, and it's just being kind. I think our world right now has lost itself in many areas, and people are mean, and we're quick to judge, and especially with media, social media, and people leaving nasty comments or whatever it is. And yeah, just being kind to one another, being kind to ourselves. It's, that you remember that book when we were in kindergarten, everything I need to know in life, I learned in kindergarten. And it's true. It's the simple things. It's sharing. It's being compassionate. It's being kind. It's looking out for our fellow humans.
And it's always interesting, hearing this sort of this question answered. And we've talked to so many great people that have given a really unique advice. And one theme that I've noticed is that it's generally pretty simple advice, but to actually apply it and walk it daily is where it takes a lot of focus and energy. Being kind to yourself, I feel like that is the place to start. We all have to treat ourselves good and have self-love in order to project that into the world, so totally agree with that. And then, be kind to people. And we've talked to so many people where it's like, hey, I like to give random compliments or this and that. Like, do that. I was getting a big case of water, and I'm not trying to like pat my own back, but there was this older lady. She was looking at cases of water too. And I was like, ma'am, could I grab that for you? And she was like, yeah, but the one I wanted was over there. It was all high up at the end of the aisle. And I was like, yeah, no problem. We'll put it in your cart for you. So just be kind to people. It goes a long way. You never know if somebody's having the worst week of their lives, and then you're just like, hey, I really like your shoes, or like that's a fun shirt. It looks great on you. That might been the only positive thing this person's heard
all day.
Yeah.
No, it's great advice. Simple acts of kindness, random acts of kindness. I like it, Ryan. That's good. We need more of it. As you mentioned, we're at a time where there's a lot of division. There's a lot of judgment. People are the keyboard warriors, as they've been called. The social media, judgment that goes out there. I think it's going to come back the other way. I really do. I have a lot of optimism in humanity and our country, that I think we're going to steer the ship the right way. And it starts by doing stuff like this, talking about it, bringing awareness to it, and motivating people to, do great things and to encourage and lift each other up. And, you definitely do a lot of that, brother. So I appreciate your work.
Yeah. Lifting people up is a big thing. And that's what I try to do with my channel. I portray myself, as I am, as a genuine, nice guy, and people watch it and they're like, oh man, I want to be more like that guy, and so it's the simple things like YouTube, both of you as hosts, people are like, I'm going to be like those homies. They're cool. I want to be like those guys when I grow up. And it's simple. It's just being a nice human.
Yep. Goes a long way for sure, man. And so, we got more work to do. We got more people to, motivate and humble and hang out with, of course. So, this is the portion of the show, Ryan, where you get to plug everything. You got a book out. You got a great YouTube channel. Where do our viewers and listeners go to get in touch with the Duzer?
Right on. Thanks. So I put all of my heart and soul into my YouTube channel. That's really the content that I love the most. That's just youtube.com/DuzerTV. And then I'm on Instagram, and I do have a book that I wrote about my very first adventure when I rode my bike from Honduras to Boulder, Colorado, after I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Honduras. It's called The Long Way Home, and you can find that through my YouTube channel links or whatever. If you just Google my name, it'll all pop up.
And we'll leave links for that in the comments on this video too, so it's super easy for everybody to access. We know you're a busy guy. We absolutely appreciate your time, sharing some stories with us, and being a genuine human being. It's so great to rub shoulders and connect intellect with somebody that's doing what we also want to do, and that is make the society a better place. Be humble about our mistakes, own up to them, and move forward in a neutral mentality that can benefit everyone around us. So such a pleasure having you on, man. And we can't wait to talk to you again. You're in the wheelhouse now.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and I'm glad that there's people like you on this planet doing the good work. And I can't wait to meet you someday in real life. And if you want to come up here for a CU Buffaloes football game, let me know.
Let's go.
Let's do it for sure. And like we said, we love repeat guests. Next time we see you, well, it might be up in Boulder. Maybe it's down at the studio, but you'll be on the couch eventually the next time we have a visit with the Duzer. Maybe we'll go out on a ride. We'll do something fun, man. But definitely a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Thanks for taking some time to hang out with us, brother, man.
Right on. You guys too. Have a great day.
Yep. Everybody tuning in, please be good to yourselves.
You deserve it.
#modern man.
Yes.